4:30. I'd like to call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals in the City of Decatur, Indiana. We've got some housekeeping to take care of before we get started. Would like an approval of the minutes of the previous meeting as distributed.
I move that we accept the minutes as approved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the January 3 meeting as distributed. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, same. The minutes are approved as distributed. Second item, proof of publication is being circulated right now for all the board members to verify that this meeting was accurately and properly publicized. Take a moment and let them confirm that.
Make a motion to approve the legal notice.
Is that motion just for the legal notice, or is it also the affidavit of mailing?
Oh, yeah, the affidavit, too.
Now that everybody's had an opportunity to look at both documents.
Some things never change.
And the former mayor of the City of Decatur has been officially reprimanded.
Is there a second to that motion?
Is there a second to the motion? We have a motion and a second to approve both the proof of publication and the affidavit of notification. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The proof of publication and the affidavit of notification are both made a matter of record. The petition before the board this afternoon is from Creative Sign Resources and HRE Development, LLC. And they're requesting a variance of the City of Decatur Code of Ordinances, Section 150.331, regarding signs for Hardee's at 240 North 13th Street in Decatur, Indiana, 46733. The applicant is requesting a variance from the requirements of front yard setback and 2 minimum ground clearance height. Do we have a representative of the applicant here that would like to formally make his application?
Yes.
Please have a seat.
Okay.
Roger, is that mic on? You have to, it's on the very bottom.
There's a button on the back.
You have to kind of hold it in.
And would you know, gentlemen, please identify yourself and the organization that you're with.
My name is Ron Mitchell with Creative Sign Resources, 4707 East Washington Boulevard, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
I'm Carl Gieber. I work with HRE, the company with the Hardee's. That's at our office at 5654 Coventry Lane, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Carl Gieber.
Okay, gentlemen, would you go ahead and make your presentation to the board?
So I think you've all got the packet of our proposal. The existing sign that sits up there would be on the north southwest corner. Thank you, Roger, for helping me out there. I get my directions mixed up there on that north-south of 27. We've actually been looking at this for about a year and a half, going back and forth on what we should do with the sign to try to give a little bit more impact to visibility. It seems to be in a clutter there with the Dairy Queen sign. In the summertime, when the trees are at bloom, it's blocked considerably until you approach right to the entrance of the restaurant. We've had some discussion on moving the sign forward. We have about 7 feet that we can actually move the sign forward to still be in compliance with the 5-foot setback.
You say forward, you mean closer to the road?
Closer to the road, yes, sir. Yes, sir. But with that, then we're into the power lines. And so that's something that we've had to be mindful so that, we've got a 10-foot OSHA clearance that we have to be away from the power lines when we do that. then we considered lowering it where it was at, and again, then we get into that blockage with the Dairy Queen. And so we didn't just really just come up with this idea a couple of months ago to say, hey, let's see if we can get a variance. We've been back and forth with recommendations with the owners and had some discussion with Sharon and Roger, trying to get ideas. We did have a survey ordered so that we would know exactly where the property line is in lieu of the right-of-way. I think I may have some photos that shows them orange stakes. And then in those photos, I think I may have, do you guys have this one where I have the white spray painted center line marks on there? I've actually got two of them there. One would be a 0 setback from where the property line is, and the other is showing if we came in 5 feet from the property line, which actually brings us in 9 feet in that center island that is actually 21 foot 6 inches wide. So we have a Hardy sign that spreads out to 15 foot 9. And so if we bring that Hardy sign, number 1, to the 5 foot setback requirement, then we're into the drive of the restaurant, where we've taken a risk of delivery vehicles hitting that sign that it's sticking out over into the drive. So if we bring it back to a 0 setback, that keeps us on the inside edge of that curb to prevent anybody clipping that sign when they come through the drive. In doing so, again, trying to keep mindful of the power lines and looking at other signs down on 13th Street, the owners, myself, we kind of felt that bringing the sign height down to about 16 foot gets a little better traveling visibility versus being up there at over 20 foot. Certainly we understand that in doing so, we reduce the required, I believe, 10 foot height from grade to the bottom of the sign that's required by the ordinance as well. But hopefully if you see in my conceptuals, we still have the sign, even at a 0 setback, we're still 4 feet back from the sidewalk to give the ingress-egress visibility as to not create any traffic hazards to anyone exiting the property.
Are you moving this, wanting to move the sign north as well?
Yes, yes, more centrally located on the property.
Right.
Now it's located just to the south of the entrance, right?
It's pretty close to the other sign of your neighbor.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're going to move it north to the north side of the entrance.
Yeah, we'd like to locate it almost right in front of the building, so it gives just to get a better feel for where the entrance is. I come down from Fort Wayne all the time, and I'm pulling into Dairy Queen half the time because the visual to me is
Gentlemen,
it doesn't line up to our
this
building.
drawing in red has the proposed location that I think answers the question at this point of where they want to relocate it to.
Gotcha.
So, it's this proposed relocated sign with the 15.9 clearance. Or dimension, it's not clearance, the 15.9 dimension.
The width of it, correct.
So the edge of it will be hitting the property line.
Right, the leading edge would be right at
On
the...
the property line,
right on
and
the-
then 15 foot 9 inches to the east of that property line.
Correct, correct.
Ron, is that 25 feet from the corner? Because you have to maintain that clear vision triangle 25 feet.
I can't honestly sit here and tell you that, but I'm pretty confident it is based on where we're centralized in the middle part of the property. And I would make sure it was, should we get approval on it. And that's 25 foot from
T Street up there, so. Yeah.
From that corner property. Yeah, I got you.
Okay, yes.
It does appear to be.
Yeah, but I like that. I can't honestly sit here and say I measured it off to confirm.
Do you have an idea from the edge of the curb, along the street curb, how far back that is to the front edge of the sign? Is that on here, one of these drawings?
Well, no, it's not. I know that I got 4 feet from the edge of the sidewalk, and I believe the sidewalk is 4 foot? 5 foot, so I'd be at 9, plus whatever I have out there in that island. So I would have to say on a real good educated guess, at least 12 feet off of that inside edge of the road curb.
And in your shorthand, PL is power line, not property line? Or?
No, it's property line, sir.
Okay.
It's property line, sir.
Now, NDOT had no problem with this? No, anything that's off of their right of way, they don't deal with. So this has nothing to do with their right of way? He keeps on his property. They don't.
I think I forwarded an email.
Yeah, you did. That's why I was a little confused.
Yeah, NDOT deferred to city code.
Right. How does this, the location you're proposing, what's the distance from the power lines?
At least 10 foot.
Yeah, we have to be a minimum of 10
Right.
foot.
Okay.
But what is it?
But do you know what it is? Is it 10 feet exactly, or is it more than that?
We'll be closer to 12 feet. I sometimes don't like to try to push the to the minimum, just to protect the workers and to make sure we don't have any electricity charged into the sign.
Do you have the ability to move it back 3 feet more, so that you'd have roughly 15 feet away from the power line?
We could go a couple, 3 feet. I'd just trying to think that right now, if I go, like, I'll do a quick.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we could actually get 2 feet closer out of the right-of-way and still be right on the leading edge of that drive curb with the top tip of the star on the Hardys.
So at that point, does the star become subject to getting clipped by a delivery truck?
No, because it's right there on the edge
Okay.
of
It'll still
the...
be, what, 20-some feet, 20 feet high about? Bottom edge of that's going to be about 16 feet to start.
Right. Well, no, we're looking to have the overall height of the sign at 16 foot.
That's the existing.
And the sign is, the Hardee's portion with the star is 6.5 feet,
Right.
6 feet 4, so if that's 15.9, so that puts that bottom edge of that star at about 10.5 feet. And if
Right.
you've got a 14-foot semi going through there,
Yeah.
okay.
Trying to be mindful.
I'm trying to understand your concern.
Sure.
Do
Appreciate it.
semis go around there in that drive-through lane?
They generally park out back, but a driver could try to pull around there, and we just don't want to take any chances.
Deliveries happen 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, so there's,
It varies sometimes.
but I mean,
We don't have night.
the parking lot wouldn't be full so that the driver could.
They could
Yeah.
technically drive around there, yes.
The only thing that bothers me is that by granting a variance for the 0 lot line or even 2 feet, that kind of opens the door for everybody else to do the same thing. I don't like setting a precedent. What's to keep the Dairy Queen from saying, well, hey, I need to move mine out now? How you gonna tell them that? You're not? Huh? You probably won't. Yeah, that's one of the things that bothers me about that 5 foot, about that front yard setback. The lower clearance part, it still appears to me that if you pull up either direction, that's not gonna really be an issue. It still looks like you've got plenty of vision to the south. If you need to pull out there, that's not, the height of that sign's not gonna... Yeah, I think you're all right. That'd be the only thing it might block, would be a truck.
If the driver was sitting higher.
Yeah, I still think you've got room to pull up so they can see past it.
Yeah, I pulled up into that exact spot using these photos as a reference, and it did not appear to me that we were blocking
Obstruction of view.
visibility at all.
And I certainly understand not wanting to set a precedence, but I think that our situation being unique with the clutter of the Hardy sign and the Dairy Queen sign kind of creates kind of a unique situation for us to try to get a little bit more separation. And then plus, like I say, right now, the blockage is not as severe as when the trees are in full bloom. This summer, if the sign stays where it's at, and you drive up and down 13th Street, you'll have a really, really hard time seeing that there's a Hardy sign there because those trees in bloom.
And where are the trees located that you're concerned about?
They're in front of that insurance building to the north there. You've got those two round trees sitting right out front.
In front of the Graber property?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And I have just a couple photos of some others down on 13th Street that I just wanted to let you guys see that, and I don't know if these are grandfathered, in, if you guys know.
Some of them are, yeah, because when they come through and widen the road,
Yeah, some of them, these are just some that, and I can't, say for sure that it's a zero
those
setback.
buildings have been there prior to them.
Yeah, so,
Galleys, way out to the, yeah.
Which doesn't present an issue.
Well,
sure.
it wasn't way out there when the street was narrower.
Right. Yeah, it was, the street came closer to the sign didn't come closer to the street. Right. Mr. Mitchell, you mentioned the clutter. By moving the sign from the south part of the property to the north property, isn't that going to help relieve the clutter some? I mean, by just having that separation from the Dairy Queen sign?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, because right now, the Dairy Queen sign is right there on top of the Hardy sign, and it does get confusing, as Carl has mentioned, which drive do you enter into, so.
Does it make a difference now that Arnold's Drive-In sign's no longer there?
Shows a picture of Aunt B.
Aunt B, yeah, that's no longer there?
Horizon now, right?
There's a Verizon sign there now.
Yeah.
They got one on them.
Yep.
No, just on their building. They got one on their building. They got one right next to the
So-
highway.
There's a square one sits out there.
So if you were to move the proposed location east 2 feet to get it as far back,
Out of the right of
then you're going to have roughly about a 2 feet variance, variance down to 2 feet on a lot line, is that
Yeah,
correct?
we'll tuck it. If we get approval, we'll tuck it as close to that curve to the drive as we can, to make sure that, we just don't want to get it out into the drive area to where somebody would clip it. But yeah, certainly, if we would get approval, we'll make it as tight as we can to keep it as close to that 5 foot. It's just that, like I say, with the 5 foot, we're at 4 foot and 5 foot, so we're 9 foot in off the sidewalk to the setback that's required. And then we add that 15.9 onto it, then all of a sudden we're about 25 feet, and we've only got 21.6. So then, like I say, we're hanging about 3 foot into the drive entry. So.
So you're asking for a 5-foot setback, but you could get by with a 3-foot.
Yeah, I think we could. I think we could.
2 foot.
Yeah, we could get by with a 2-foot.
Get a variance down to 2 feet from property line.
I think your clutter really lessens as you move it farther north. I think the problem is where it's at right now. It's close to Dairy Queen. If you move it north, you're getting out of the clutter automatically.
Right.
There were 2 requested variances. One was for the setback, the second was height,
Vision.
but it doesn't, from what I understand, the bottom of the sign is going to be more than 10 feet off the ground, isn't it?
It'll be 6 feet.
It'll be 6 feet?
Yeah, because we have an electronic sign that was set in between the
Oh,
steel support tubes. Yeah.
The digital reader.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when the time comes, if it does get approved, typically I call AEP out there, and they come out there, their linemen come out there, and they come out and do the measurements to make sure that where we're at, we're safeguarded against any violations as far as being too close to the line. And if they come out and say that we can take this thing up another 2 foot or 3 foot, I mean, I know that, you know, Carl
We would, yes.
would be in agreement with that.
But that won't require a variance to make that decision.
Well, it would if it's under 10 feet.
It would if it's under 10 foot. Right now, I think it's Sharon.
No, for you to go higher would not require any action by this board.
No, because that would stay in compliance with the ordinance.
Procedural question for the city attorney. If the application is changed from a front yard setback of 0 to a front yard setback of 2 feet, can the application be modified or amended?
You
At this
can,
point, they don't have to reapply.
No,
Just
no.
want to make sure that we're complying with that. Okay, the board has asked their questions of the applicants. We'll address the audience and ask if there's anybody in opposition.
I don't see anybody out there.
Hearing none, do we have any additional comments from the building department?
Nope, I spoke like these.
Okay. Do we have any additional questions from the board?
We talked just a little bit about the distance between the intersection down to the sign. Has to be 25 foot,
From that corner property pin to that...
with that understanding.
North corner, yeah, that has to have a 25-foot triangle. There's not to be anything higher than 3 feet in there, nor less than the 10, is what the ordinance is.
So, and before the final permit would be issued, that would be verified.
Well, we could do that.
Yeah, I just don't have an engineering scale
We
with
could do
me.
that when they lay it out before they ever started, yeah.
Okay.
Make sure that
Yeah,
that's...
'cause I have a scaled site.
So at the 25-foot setback, that is assumed? We don't have to act upon that 25-foot?
No.
Okay.
It looks like we're, to me, on the pictures where he's got it located, if one shows the front property corner, and it looks to me like he's going to be back 25 feet. It's put back on the one that's in red where you said before. Okay, that-
Well, again, but if you look at what are the parking spaces, 8 feet?
16-foot alley there.
Yeah, so if you take 3 parking places, set them up on their side between the property line and the sign, he's got 25 feet.
Yeah,
They're
usually 9 feet wide.
Okay, so if they're 9, that's 27, which makes it even better.
Yeah.
Right. The reason that you have the bottom of the sign with the digital display at 6 feet is what, just to satisfy AEP, or is that where you want it, or
Well, if you look at our existing, the way we have more separation because we have a higher sign, once we squat it down, then we need to tuck and tighten everything up that's underneath of that steel structure. And so as you see from our relocated, we've got it pushed up as high as we can underneath that steel structure, whereas the existing sign, we have some space separation. So with that, we know that we're beyond, we're lower than the required 10 foot.
And I guess my question is there, if you had to keep it to comply with the code requirement of not being lower than 10 feet, does that create a problem?
Only if we can't get the sign up another 3 or 4 foot with the power lines. If I can get the sign up another 4 foot with the power lines, then I'm at the 10 foot. And
Minimum ground clearance height is satisfied at that point.
Right.
But your true limiter is distance from those power lines.
That's correct.
That's the real.
The limitation would be the distance this way, not in terms of the height comparison from the line to the top of your sign,
Right.
correct? It's the distance between this edge of the sign and the power line itself.
It's just a safety issue.
Like a radius.
Right. So, has AEP weighed in with you on this at all? Have you checked with them to see if they have a problem with the height, keeping the bottom of the sign at 10 feet or not?
No, I haven't called them on to the site yet because we don't have any directive plan on what we need them to provide for us. We just know at this point, when we saw where the sign sits now, and we could go 7 feet further out, then we're we're way too close to the power lines. But yeah, like I say, in all these kind of situations, I always call AEP out. Once we get ready to call underground and get locates and start moving the project forward, then we always contact AEP. And that's mainly because there's a fee included with them coming out. They used to do it as a courtesy, but now there's a significant fee for them to come out and check here.
Is there a fee for our water department to come out and make sure we're not interfering with the water line? Huh?
Okay. Additional conversation. From the city attorney's opinion, do we go ahead and poll the board on the initial request, and if it's denied, then start looking at alternates? Or do we have a motion that starts us with an alternate?
If you can either move to approve
As applied,
or you can indicate that you would be willing to consider the setback that would be a lesser variance, meaning instead of a 0-foot setback, it'd be 2 feet, if that's what you're talking about. And then you'd still have to go through your findings of fact.
discussion? At this point, in order for us to move forward, I need a motion of some sort.
I think that 2-foot setback sounds better, and if nothing else, it's going to give you more room between the power lines and the sign.
Right.
If you can, that 2 foot.
And that condition is not a deal breaker for, like I said, we just wanted to safety net the traffic flowing to with the height of the sign, so.
So theoretically, that will allow you to be further away from the power lines and raise it higher.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, if we can get that thing up to 20 foot, I mean, I know they're happier with it, based on, right now, we're at 23 foot. And so right now, we're telling them that in order for them to move it where they want, we got to take it down 7 feet. which didn't make them exactly happy, but they understood that, you know, it would still open up a better visibility. So by all means, if we can get back and up, it's a benefit to us and to you as well. So.
Okay, at this point, I would like to ask for a motion from a board member and then maybe a clarification of the verbiage from the city attorney before we would move forward.
Well, and the simplest way would, are you willing to amend your request for a setback that would allow you to go within 2 feet of a property line?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the amendment, the request would be amended at the meeting on the record to a setback of 2 feet instead of a 0 setback.
And is it considered as one motion or two, since there's 2 items being requested?
Well, if they're amending their request, it's really not even a motion. You just go through your findings based upon a request for a 2-foot setback.
And a variance of the minimum ground clearance height?
Well, and again, are you saying you have to have that? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, like I say, I'm pretty confident we won't now, but I can't sit here and say 100% certainly, only because I haven't had the power lines checked by AEP to confirm where the voltage, it's based on voltage as far as the distance goes. I think anything above 12,000 volts, it's got a 17-foot requirement, and anything below that is 10 foot. So it'll be a matter of them coming out and telling us, you know, what kind of voltage is on them lines based on that, on the separation that we'll have to have for the distance.
Well, you probably could then make a condition. In other words, you could grant the variance unless the sign can be elevated to meet the 10-foot requirement based on AEP's assessment.
Right.
That way you don't have to come back and get a variance if we deny it tonight.
Sure, sure.
So you're just changing the application from 0 setback to 2 foot.
2 foot. And then on the height, you can grant the height variance to 6 feet conditioned upon that being required by AEP. Otherwise, you know, you'd be obligated to meet the code requirements of a 10-foot
Absolutely,
clearance.
clear vision at time, absolutely.
Okay.
So the application says lower sign from 23 feet to 16 feet. We're really taking that out.
What? You lost me on that, John.
Well, it says here, lower sign from 23 feet to 16 feet on their application.
The 16 feet is the top of the sign, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
And the bottom with the display, the digital display, is what's going to be down to 6 feet.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, as you do that corner 25 feet, you know, you got that triangle,
Mhm.
product pin 25 feet each one, you got that diagonal line. For every little bit, he can scoot that back, they can scoot it farther north, and they can elevate that little bit so that bottom part of the big tall part of the sign, that's already 10 feet above.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if we could get out there, we could fudge that a little bit, we could get more height on it.
And they're all four down.
Okay.
If you can scoot it back a little bit, you're still gonna gain clearance from the power line.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Alrighty, let me take a shot at this and we'll see if everybody's in agreement.
Okay.
Based upon verbal confirmation of both the applicant and the owner, the request for variance has been changed from a 0 setback to 2-foot setback from the property line. And the request for minimum ground clearance height has been changed to reflect the fact that you should be able to attain 10 foot But if AEP requires you to lower it, you will keep it as high as is possible based on the AEP requirements.
Correct.
Are the members of the board in agreement with the way I stated that?
Yep.
Yes, Sharon, Sharon, did you by chance get that written down?
She's still writing.
Thank you, and we are recording this just in case. So, with that said, I think it's time to read the findings of fact for the variance. Want to clarify with the city attorney that we're going to poll the board. We'll verbally each one answer, and it has to be a simple majority, or it has to be unanimous.
No, it has to be a simple majority because you have 5 members present.
Okay, and the chairman only votes in...
To break a tie.
To break a tie.
With 5 members present.
I will read the findings, and we'll start with Mr. Schultz, and we'll
Got the wrong seat again, didn't we?
work our way around and poll each of the members for each of the questions.
And the findings relate to both variance requests.
Okay.
So, any questions from the board before I start reading?
No.
Nope.
Number 1, the granting of variance will not permit any use in any district which would be in conflict with the permitted uses of the district under the terms of this chapter. John?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
4 yeses, 0 nos. Number 2, it will not impair an adequate supply of light or air to adjacent property.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
4 yes. It will not unreasonably increase the congestion in public streets.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
4 yeses. It will not increase the danger of fire or of public safety.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
4 yeses. It will not unreasonably diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding area.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
4 yes. It will not in any other respect impair the public health, comfort, safety, morals, or welfare of the inhabitants of the city.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
4 yes. And I don't have page 2.
I don't either. I don't have page 1.
Page 2 here or not.
We will shortly.
Page 2 is the signature page, so that's probably the
That's all
most
it is?
important. Well, I don't know, there may be one more
It allows us to put additional restrictions.
conditions.
Restrictions.
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience, gentlemen, as we clarified all of the different variables and conditions that may occur. Thank you. It is therefore the decision of this board that the petition for variance is either granted or denied.
Granted. Granted.
Granted.
Granted.
For granted. Subject to any conditions stated herein, the restrictions would be what were previously stated and recorded by the secretary.
Yes, with regard to the height.
So, your petition for variance with the conditions has been granted. Thank you very much. Good luck on your project.
Thank you for all your due diligence. We appreciate your time very much.
Okay, gentlemen, we need signatures. With that, do we have any other old business before the board? Gentlemen, you are done. We've got some housekeeping to take care of.
I've got something I want to go over with you guys, kind of under
On that,
new business maybe. but
what we're signing has Bill's name on it. Can John just scratch his name?
It has
out?
Bill's name on it?
Yeah.
Oh, Bill Lynch?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Do you know how to spell
just
your
sign
name,
it
John?
and Sharon, you can wipe.
Just scratch through Bill Lynch and...
Yeah, I can do that.
And you kept him out of jail?
I know. So I have a lot less hair than I used to.
So while we're signing, any other old business?
Oh.
Mr. Baker has some new business for us.
I just kind of want to give you a heads up of something that's going on down at the state legislature. I was contacted last week late by AIM, which used to be Association of Cities and Towns, and Rhonda Cook and Jody Wood asked me to help with a legislative matter that's pending. It involves wireless service providers, mobility, okay? They've gone to the state and lobbied and obtained some changes in IC 8-1-32.3. And that chapter deals with wireless service providers, and it also includes the wireless support structures, which is what the poles are that Mobility wanted to put in our right-of-way and possibly on private property. If you recall, there was some question about how we handle that, and the determination was made that if it was going to be put in the right-of-way, that required a special use exception to be granted by the BZA, and therefore that request would come before you. If it was, I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. If it was on private property, that would be the case. Okay? If it was in the right-of-way, it would come before the Board of Works, because the Board of Works controls the street right-of-way. So, because the requests that they made back a couple months ago were for poles in the right-of-way, initially we had advertised it to come before you, we transferred it to the Board of Works, and the Board of Works considered that. Ultimately, the Board of Works took it under advisement, and when they came back and reconsidered it, voted no, not to allow these poles, that they had the ability to co-locate. So if there was an existing pole that could be strong enough or allow for the location of one of these small cell facilities that they were talking about putting up, then they could use that pole rather than put a new pole in our right-of-way. The big issue and concern is that we already have crowded right-of-ways. First of all, we have our street there, but we have our water lines, we have our sewer lines, we have our stormwater lines, then we have underground gas lines, oftentimes underground electric lines, we have fiber optic lines, and it's getting to the point where anytime we have to do repair work on one of our lines, we run the risk of hitting somebody else, which then creates issues, not only because now we have to repair their line, but there's been changes in the law with the Regulatory Commission, and anytime we hit somebody else, that gets reported down to the Regulatory Commission, and they can impose fines upon us. Okay? So there's a real concern about adding to the congestion. This legislation takes that authority away from Board of Works or BZA, and it says flat out they have the right to use our right-of-way, and basically they have to compensate us in very little amounts. So the AIM fought this, it got out of committee, it's probably going to get out of the Senate and get over to the House, so they're forming a technical work group to try to work with legislators in the House to clean up some of this language and still reserve some local control over this, which is what we desperately want. So I'm just giving you a heads up that this is coming, and we'll see how it shakes out in terms of what we can do to either kill the bill if it does get over to the House, or whether we can modify it to something we can live with. But
So this is a Senate bill?
this was a Senate bill.
Who's the author? That tells you where it's coming from.
It came from the Utilities Committee. So it was the chairperson of that committee, I think, authored the bill, and it got out of the committee. Once it got onto the floor, based on what Jody and Rhonda Cook said, it's pretty certain that it's going to get out of the Senate and over to the House. They think they have a better chance in the House of trying to do something with the bill. So I'm going down Thursday to meet with some other attorneys and Jody and Rhonda about this to try to come up with some modifications to language that we would ask to be inserted as amendments on the House side, with the hope that that would stay if it got approved by the House. Ideally, if we can get it killed, that would be better, because the whole point of this is it's taking away local control.
Sure.
Okay? So if it does get through, we may see, and the other problem is, Mobility was just one company that's a provider of these poles. There's nothing to say that there aren't other companies out there that's going to want to do the same thing. And once you open the door, we have no control over it.
So they literally could back a truck up and start digging?
If this gets passed, we have no control other than they have to let us know that they're going to be coming in and using our right-of-way and telling us where they're putting it. We can't require, and this is language that's really confusing, because there's one place where if it's in a right-of-way, it's a permitted use as long as it's under 50 feet, or it's the greater of 50 feet or 10 feet above any existing pole in the right-of-way, within like 500 feet, okay? And then there's another place that says that local bodies, whether it's the Board of Works or BZA, can't put any restrictions on the height. Okay? So there's some ambiguity in terms of the language as it's written now, and that would be one thing that we want to certainly try to clean up. My opinion, it ought to be the lesser of 50 feet or 10 feet above an existing pole. Because if you're talking about the greater, if you may have a pole that's 25 feet, now you're talking about a pole that's double that.
So this is just aerial, though. It's nothing to do with the ground?
What's that?
It's nothing to do with digging, it's all...
Oh, no.
No, they're going to dig.
They dig, yeah.
They're going to dig it in, or
Fiber optics came in from Portland here.
Yeah, now, they may not,
2 years ago.
they're going to have to dig, and they'll probably put a base in, but that's the other thing. When we were talking to Mobility, we were talking about having metal poles that would be bolted, okay? Well, now, you can't require that. If they want to put a wood pole in, they can, which means they are going to be digging down just like I&M does.
So what are you after the board here to do?
I'm just giving you a heads up of what's going on. If you see your legislators...
Under that proposal, or that bill,
Yeah.
what is our responsibility if something goes wrong?
Well, if they're doing it and they hit it, that's their problem. But once it's there, if we are trying to repair a sewer line,
Which is right next to the pole where they dug in there.
yeah, it creates a real hardship for us
Yes.
Yeah.
to try to get to our own
The
line.
unintended
Right.
consequences of this just have not been thought out.
Trust me, from the city and town perspective, we don't want this.
Exactly what it is.
Right.
So did they distribute a list of key legislators that need to be contacted?
Well, right now, what they said is contact your local legislators, which would be Travis Holdman in the Senate and Matt Lehman in the House.
Travis has not been here for 3 years. He's not been in Decatur for over 2, I know. That's terrible, our state
My
senator's
wife
not
likes
here.
to communicate
I
with
talked
them,
to the
and they
library
don't want to listen.
Saturday
I
night. Yeah.
There's probably a lot of people like that, Bill. But,
appreciate your opinion.
I mean, I can get a hold of Matt, and I certainly intend to. I told Jody and Rhonda that I know Matt personally, and I wouldn't hesitate to contact him, and I will. And that's what they said. They said right now, just contact your local legislators, tell them how you feel about it. So to the extent that you're willing to do that, I encourage you to do it.
So this is a high priority for the organization?
Yeah.
What'd you call it, AIM?
AIM, it's, I don't know, accelerated something, they changed it. Yeah. Accelerated Indiana Municipalities or something like that.
Can you imagine what a nightmare it would be for like a water and sewer replacement or extension?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is,
Yeah, and then they boring all this fiber optic in the same right of way, it just makes it
It's
impossible.
getting to the point where it's going to be very, very difficult for us to maintain our own lines.
Because you've got all the abandoned underground infrastructure in here.
Right.
At one point, I think the city had a nice gentleman's agreement with like NIPSCO.
Mhm.
If we hit your line, no
Mhm.
charge. That our lines are-
That's no longer,
Gone now.
no. Yeah. And it used to be, the way that this worked with the state is if the water department was out repairing a water line and it hit a NIPSCO line, then that gets reported as something related to the water department. Then if you had a sewer line that got repaired and they hit something, that got reported as a hit by the sewer, okay? And you had, I don't know, it was like 5, in a year's time, they had 5 incidents, you weren't subject to a fine unless you exceeded that. Well, now, the rules have been changed, and all hits go under the city proper. So if you get a combination...
You get to 5 a lot faster.
You get to 5 a lot faster, and the penalties went up significantly. I mean, you're talking, once you exceed that, I think the second time, it's like a $25,000 fine. So anyway.
Well, thank you for that update. It certainly makes the business of the city a little more difficult.
Yeah, very much so.
Do we have any additional new business? Do we have a potential next meeting date or subject?
Had a couple people made inquiries about some things, but we've never got any applications.
Did you check with AEP on the substation out there? Did they ever submit plans?
I don't know if they ever give me a set of plans. I've seen one. I think that. I don't know if they
Nate had all
I
that.
think Nate had all that.
That never came before the Plan Commission.
We talked about it, but there was no action ever taken.
No, there was
We
never
talked
any.
about the fact that we never saw it.
Right. Did you
Roger,
talk?
could you talk to them?
Did you talk to them? I mean, have you?
No.
I mean, is that a public utilities right to do that type of thing?
Well, I don't think we can necessarily say, no, you can't, but I think we have a right to look at their plans
Right.
and determine whether it complies with our setbacks and any site screening that we may require.
They had all that. I mean, they're going to screen it all, but it isn't going to be screened as high as the
Right.
stuff. I mean,
Right.
At one time,
I think the Plan
AEP
Commission.
gave us
yes. And I don't know if I
a
got
layout. I
They
guess,
gave us a
nothing
layout,
formal,
but
it was
no.
just to keep us informed.
Right.
Okay,
We had a-
lines are coming from here, they're going to come out from here. And
We had a meeting when you were still mayor.
Yeah, they never gave us a plot plan, saying, okay, we're going to be 15 feet from here, or 25 feet from there. They never gave any of
Right.
that.
But Nate was on that committee and working with them,
Was
but
he?
nobody took over when Nate left.
Okay. Well, with all of that discussion, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
Second.
In favor?
All right.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.